It Stains the Sands Red is a zombie horror drama film written and directed by Colin Minihan. And it has some interesting parts to it, but as a whole, it's a deeply flawed film. So right off the bat, it starts off pretty crappily, as you're given an overhead shot, like from a helicopter or drone, of the Las Vegas Strip. And they try to make it seem like they're in the middle of a zombie apocalypse, but it just looks like the Strip. And then they added some crappy CGI smoke to the buildings, and it's like, it looks so bad. It's like, oh man, okay, so this is the movie. But then you get these Brittany Allen plays Molly, and she is pretty good. Like, I liked her a lot for a lot of the film. Like, he really did a lot of crap in this movie, and she's with her boyfriend, and they're trying to escape Las Vegas, but they don't really explain that much. Like, where they're going, they're the only car on the road, and they don't seem like they're that worried about the zombie apocalypse thing. But and it's kind of goofy because like she has to throw up, so he like pulls the car off the road into the sand where they're stuck. And it's like, and then later, a little bit right after that, they're standing in the road, and it's like, if you're fine standing in the road, why didn't you just park in the road? Then you wouldn't have been stuck at all. But then you wouldn't have a movie. And like, there's some goofy things with. Then you see a zombie come up, and this is a zombie that will be following Molly for most of the film. And if you're gonna have for most of the film one zombie, you really gotta nail the makeup for it. And they didn't. It looks really corny. It looks like something an amateur would do. But, once it starts going, like, at first it's just like him following her through the desert then. And they play the horror aspect, like, more than I would expect. Because they keep playing the loud noise whenever he appears, and it's like, it's annoying. But it's not scary at all. And I wish they would have done more, like, almost like a horror comedy more out of it. Because there could have been some more comedy in what happened, but the movie didn't play it for that. And it's a really odd thing where, like, throughout the film, she would do things, but it would all be behind the cut. Like, the movie would cut, and then it would cut back in to her having done something cool. And it's like, I would have liked to see that. What happened there? How'd she do that? And because like, right at the beginning, like it's nighttime, she needs to sleep, so I guess she apparently climbs this big rock, but right after when she wakes up, she had a hell of a time going down it. But how would she have climbed it? And because they never, and multiple times, like every time she goes to bed, she climbs some random rock there's always a appropriate rock or cliff face for her to climb where the zombie can't climb, and they never once show her climbing it. And then later when she just starts to use the zombie to carry things, and it's kind of, I like that what happens with zombie where she kind of like start to feel for him, like they build the bond kind of, and I like things they do with that. But like she somehow finds a tire and like ties the thing to it and throws it on him, but they never show her doing that. It's like, I would have liked to see that. That could have been an interesting moment. There's also a scene in the middle where like things happen where she meets someone else and things go bad, and they take it a little too far. Like, he could have accomplished almost the same thing without it going that far. Like, I won't spoil, but it's like, that's a little rough. You have to do that. Like, I don't see what didn't add anything to the film. And also, just some random thing that I found odd was that like after she's been trapped in the desert, like she's in the car with air conditioning, and she's like, oh, then she puts her hands over top of the air conditioning vents, and then it's like she's supposed to be enjoying it a lot, but like all you're doing is blocking the air conditioning. Again, like I went back and forth to kind of liking this and like really disliking it, and there are some good parts to it. And the end, it kind of turns into like a more common zombie movie. But as a whole, it was just pretty flawed. Like all of the, there's like a lot of cheap CGI. And some of the stuff doesn't really make sense. Like he is following her from scent. And following her through desert and this, apparently she having PMS. So he's following her, the smell of her period blood. And there's one really gross moment where to distract him, she throws a tampon away from him, so he go after it and he eats it, and it's like, oh, that's weird. But there's this thing where they go into, she's hiding in the house, and he follows her in, and then he like can't find her, but then he can smell her across the desert. But that's whatever. But there's one scene in that house where there's a scorpion on her, and it's like, and the second that I see a scorpion, it's like, oh, that's a small yellow one. That means that it's dangerous. And I always love the interesting fact where the big black ones look really dangerous, but with scorpions, the bigger their claws there are, the less they need to use the poison from the tail. So those are the safe ones. And so you don't normally see the small yellow ones, the small light-colored ones, but those are the ones that are really poisonous. And then you see that, and then you notice that first, right there, and you say, I don't know about that. And then you see it move, and it's like, oh, okay, it's really cheap CGI. And like some of the stuff, like when later on when she's killing zombies, like the effects aren't great. Like sometimes the practical is decent, some of the stuff, but others, they have like really bad CGI blood and CGI splatter and stuff. And the whole is just not a good movie. I mean, there are some interesting parts, especially if you're like a really big zombie fan and you want to see a different take on the genre. But I wouldn't highly recommend it. I'd probably give it like a 6.5 or 6.75 out of 10. Like, it's not horrible. I mean, there were some interesting moments, but I definitely wouldn't go out of your way to see it. But thanks for watching, and you can check out my other video playlists around my head, or subscribe to me over here. Thanks for watching.